Hi, and welcome to this week's Shir. The title of this week's Shir is going to be Taamei Torah Basar V'Chalav. Okay? Either you can learn Taamei Torah as the reasons in Torah for Basar V'Chalav, or the more hidden matters of Basar V'Chalav. Okay, this is kind of part 2 from last week, where we had a challenge. Are we going to find Chidushim in the Mechaber Shulchan Aruch, right? This week we took a totally random halacha, completely random, narrowed the process down by going through Yeridea, because why did we choose Yeridea? Just interesting, right? Just interesting. Just skip to a random page. I wanted to find, I found a couple halachas that were long, and that was not the focus. We don't want to learn this for 5 weeks. We want to find a shorter halacha, which even exasperates the challenge that we should try to find a chiddush in the lashon of the Mechaber. Which brings us to Yeridea, Tzadik, Aleph, halacha, Aleph. I want you to listen, yeah? After I read this halacha, the question is there a chiddush here, okay? Basar ugvina. Shenago ze beze mutrim ele shitzarech lahadiach makom shenigason umuter letzor otam b'mitpachat achas v'lo chayshinan shema yago ze beze. Did you understand that? Meat with cheese, meat and cheese, that they touched each other. They're okay. They're allowed, mutrim. Except you have to wash the place where they touched. And it's mutter to bundle them up in one bundle, and we don't have to be afraid lest they will have touched, or they touch this one with this one. Do you think of a chiddush? Doesn't sound like there is a chiddush at all. Huh. Okay. The Gemara is the makor, as usual, right? Chulin, Kuf Zayin Amud Beis. Soirer Adam Basar Ugvina. V'mitpachat Chas Uvilvad Shelo Yiu Nogoyin Zeh B'zeh. Then it goes into another shita, which is not our shita. Then it ends with Zebasar Zegvina ve'ein chosheshin. A guy bundles up basar and gvina in one bundle. He can do it. It's apparent he can do that, I would assume, because then it says bilvad, only so that only that they were not touching this one with this one. And it comes out that you have one that is holy meat, one that is holy cheese, and we do not suspect any kind of fears. Now, from that, for sure, you're not going to think of a chiddush, correct? Sounds pretty straightforward. Okay, I'm going to move the Talmud off to the side for now, just to show that we don't need this much anymore, right? With me? This is the Talmud on that. Let's bring the Torah into here. Just for the record, the Rush, the Ramban, and the Rif are not really present in this sugya. So how many of our friends? We should have 8 friends. Rush, Rif, Rashi, Tosfos. 4 of our friends are not here. Tur, Mechaber, 2 are here. Rambam's here at 3. Ramban is not here. So we have 3 out of 8 present and accounted for. The Rambam's looking like our Ikar Rishon. The Torah has to be here because he wrote the Torah. And the Mechaber has to be here because he wrote the Shulchan Aruch. So it would look, at this point, it's going to be Rambam Central, right? He's our Rishon. No one else is here. should be Rambam Central. Do you have any idea how the Torah is going to word this halacha? Are you expecting him to sound like the Gemara? Yeah? But we saw the Shulchan Aruch is different. So already the question is, why is the Shulchan Aruch not like the Gemara? It's already an issue. Here's the Torah. Basar ugvina shenagu ze b'ze mutrin ele shetzorich lahadiach makom nigyasan umutter letzor otam b'mitpacha dechas v'lo chashinan shem yagu ze b'ze. Does that sound familiar? Where? Shulchan Aruch. All right, there's somebody that agrees with you. There is someone that agrees with you. Did some printing out. And we have... Just see who it is first. 1 second. Yeah. This is a sefer I saw. K'tav Torah. Basar Ogvina. Shenagu ze b'ze mutrin. Ela shetzorich l'diach makom nigasan. Umutter letzor oisam mitpachat achas. V'lo chayshin on shem yagu ze b'ze. Good? V'chein hu lashon Shulchan Aruch. He claims like you that the lashon of the Torah is the same as the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch. You stand by that? And that's pretty much all we have in the printouts. Yeah. Other than the Chidah, I'm going to point this out now. The Chidah is going to take the Shulchan Aruch, and he's going to say it's a Pashut Din. Right? It's a Pashut Din. On basically, you can make a Derech Yashar, a straight path off the Shulchan Aruch. Okay. First thing I want to tell you is you're wrong. And he's wrong as well. The difference is, and everyone's going to say I'm splitting hairs and it's not correct. If you notice that the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch are word for word exact, except for the Chiddush we had last week. Basar, basar. Gvina, gvina. Shenagu, shenagu. Ze, ze. Beze, beze. Motrin, motrim. Everything else is oto davar. That's right. So the question again is going to become, why the nun sofit, why the mem sofit? Okay, we've already seen that the Torah's pressed to not sound like the Gemara. And the Shulchan Aruch Machaber doesn't want to sound like the Torah. They want to say it's the same lashon. Maybe it is for most reasons, but really it's not. Now, I'm not a, what do you call it, grammatarian? What's that called, a grammarian? A grammarian. And I don't know how ancient biblical Hebrew works in the grammar to the point of this, but I will tell you, in the usage of their writing, there is a difference between motrin and motrim. And I can tell you from a sensitivity and learning. Right? Now again, where is it written? Most of those rules are lost. A lot of them are the principles of Rabbi Yishmael. And we say there's 13 levels of exegesis. But I think really we say there's like 39, right? There's like an ancient Masorah, there was a lot. Way more. And we lost that tradition. The rules of how to make, these kind of conclusions. But when you see motrin, especially when it's in context of the Talmud, listen what he's saying here. Baso gvina shenagu ze b'ze motrin ela shetzorich l'diach makom nigyasim. What do you assume motrin is referring to? Lashon mutter. What is mutter? I want you to tell me. What is mutter? Huh? Yeah, but what is permissible here? Do you know? I would assume that he's saying there's a matzav of basar, a matzav of gvina. They touched. I'm going to rinse them off. It sounds to me like they're not puzzle. Don't throw them away. Mutter lachila, right? Yeah? Okay. And I'm just going to wrap up the Torah real quick, all right, just to knock things out of the way. The Torah and her commentaries are going to say that if you look at the next halacha, 91b, it's a direct quote, Ktav Bal HaItter. I've heard of the Bal HaItter a lot, but I never really thought to look it up. Bal HaItter was an early Rishon, and he wrote a basic Shulchan Aruch. There was the laws of Choshen Mishpat, Even Ezer, Yerodea, and Orach Chaim in his own early way. He took from the Gonim. He was a early style Shulchan Aruch. So I want to bring this in this year. You see that there was a halachic code forming. All right, the Gonim gave over the secrets of the Talmud, how it works, Halacha Moshe Sinai, and then you had commentators starting to codify. Codification was largely pshat in the Babylonian Talmud. Maybe Yerushalmi too. But when I say that, look here, we have the Prisha on this. He's going to say the Bal HaItter is going to come, and Davar Pashut Hu Shabala HaItter Kai Ahad Etnan Ubilvad Shelo Yu Nagoyin Zeb Zeva Amrina Begamara Sheim Nagu Tzorich Ladiach Makom Nagiyasan Shema Mina Kol Mine Datati Datata. So the Bal HaItter is going to say this din is Pashit the Gemara. Right? He's going to say the pshat you saw in the Mishnah. And by the way, I forgot to read you Abaye. The din's going to be like Abaye. Right? The Gemara is going to say, V'ki nogei azeh b'zeh, my havi yitzoinin b'tzoinin, who? Amar Abaye need a klipa lo boyi hadacha mi lo boye. Okay? He's going to say that when they touch, what do? Right? You completely rinse it off. Abaye says, in the case of the klippa, sometimes the klippa, the shell of it is able to be to draw out things, right? So ni the klippa lo boye hadacha mi lo boye. It's kind of a halachic mimer of Abaye. The point is that lashon of Abaye is translated into the Torah as hadacha, rinsing it off, right? Now, this whole framework comes from the Bal HaItter. I'm just setting up the scene here. As an early Rishon, he says there's no Chiddush here. Most of the Rishonim don't even touch it. And the Torah basically, I think the Rashba, it says, went after the Bal HaItter as well. He quoted him, and everybody's going to then go and quote the Bal HaItter. The Bal HaItter is going to learn Pshat in the Gemara based on the Mishnah and how Abaye qualified in the Gemara. That's a basic framework of how we got to the Torah, okay? Very basic. And that should be it for the Torah. Should be it for the Torah. There's my bookmark. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Rambam was one of our Rishonim. If we didn't have the Rambam, this wouldn't be interesting. But we do have the Rambam. The Rambam is going to be in Hilchos Ma'achlos Asoros Perak Tes Halacha Yud Zayin. On location. Habasar levado mutter. The chalav levado mutter. Meat alone, obviously, there's no problem. It's good meat, good cheese. Right? We're not at McDonald's yet. You can eat these things, and when you mix them both together by cooking, they're both forbidden to eat. Sorry, McDonald's, we're not going to come and have your food. The Madvarim Amrim, what are we talking about? When we cook them together, as the Torah says, don't cook a kid in his mother's milk. We did, Chas v'shalom. Or it fell the hot into the hot, or the cold into the hot. It now became treif. Hashar. right? If you have a case where it fell in the permitted way, there's a way to fix or remedy the situation, as long as it wasn't totally puzzle and becoming treif. V'im naful tzoinin latok tzoinin, cold fell and cold. Madiach chaticha ve'ochla, right? The cold meat fell into the cold cheese. Rinse it off and you can eat it. Lafikach, therefore, mutter litzror basar gvina b'mitpachas achas. Sound familiar? V'hu shelo yagu zeh b'zeh v'im nagu madiach basar madiach gvina ve'ochel. So the Rambam's got his own deal going on, where he's talking about basar v'chalav and the forbiddenness of eating them together, and then he brings our Gemara as a lafikach, right? If you had the cold fall into the cold, soinin b'tsoinin, which is what we said by Abaye, remember? So the Rambam was talking about you ate treif, then maybe it wasn't so treif. Then it wasn't treif at all. So he's bringing you hishtalshlus, which ended up with Abaye, which is the answer of how our Mishnah works. So the Rambam knows Shas, and he says, since we're at our Mishnah and Abaye, very nicely, from just a hishtalshlus from Basar v'chalav, I'll bring it in now. So just like the Mishnah says, you can wrap up meat and cheese in a zach as long as they don't touch. If they touch, you wash each one and you eat each one. Now comes the Kesef Mishnah. The Kesef Mishnah is going to say that he has a problem with this. Yeah? Yes, sir. Let's make sure one thing before we go on. Yeah, do you know who the Kesef Mishnah is? You don't know. Who is he? Yosef Karo. So you don't always have to look in the Torah. Where's the Torah? For Yosef Karo in the Beis Yosef. He's also in the Kesef Mishnah on the Rambam. So now we're not out of the league, out of the woods yet for finding our Chiddush. He's going to say like this. I got a problem with this word lefikach of the Rambam. Why? Why are you bringing like this transition to our Gemara from where you were? Okay, you eat milk and meat or you don't. Why are you bringing us here? Tom Tavis lefikach kashe be'inai. It's problematic in my eyes. This doesn't sound like if you have a good piece of meat and a good piece of cheese, right, you can eat them as long as they're separate, and now you can bundle them up. What? Right? What? The ha'afilu isur v'heter, even a good piece and bad piece. Lo matzino shi'e asur, no one says even if it's treif, one thing, right, a treif meat and good cheese. It's not forbidden to bundle them together. Right? If they're not touching, no problem. It's possible Shatayim Elaim or the cave on the Soinim and Soinim Mediach. It's maybe he's going on the very previous thing where a cold zach fell into a cold zach, and then you wash it off. And it's possible if Shatayim Elaim or the cave on the Soinim and Soinim Mediach, Lafikach Heicha de Keshram Ben Pachas Achas, where he tied them in this thing, if they were touching this one with this one, you would rinse it off, the meat, rinse off the cheese, and you would eat it. Enami Yoshev Demai Lafikach he. And the fact is, Lafikach doesn't answer, not the beginning part, and not the part on location by us. Just suddenly tying it up, the food. Doesn't fit. So he's saying that this transitional word, the fikach, is like there's a beginning of the halacha, a middle A, middle B, and an end. So the beginning, it doesn't go. And the middle B, where it is, doesn't go. But the part just before, it goes. And the part at the end doesn't matter. So the Rambam is chaperein. And if you notice the Torah, the way he does it, he's chaperein too. He's saying that the Bala Itter halacha, right, that comes in the next halacha, really is explaining where we are now in 91.1. They're all chaperein. You see what I'm saying? In these milk and meat laws, they're bringing in things, they're chaperein. So there's a chachma here. In fact, the commentary to the Shulchan Aruch is going to have the same idea presented in the Torah when he says, who's he? This is the Prisha. All right, we mentioned him before. I'll mention him again. So the Prisha is going to, again, the commentary on the Torah. The Torah is a little bit different than the Mechaber, which we'll get to. He's going to quote Abaye. He's going to say it's straight from the Mishnah. He's going to quote the Bala Itter, who says it's straight from the Mishnah. The language of the Torah is from the Bala Itter. So it's there's a Masorah here. The Rabbeinu, one second. The boy Hadacha Asur, the Rabbeinu, Afal Pi. Here, he's going to challenge, he's going to say, why is the Torah changing the language of the Mishnah? That was one of our original questions. Even though that he taught a little bit of the Lashon of the Mishnah in the place that it said Bilvad, when the Gemara, when it said only that they shouldn't touch the cheese and the meat, he then says something different. He's saying V'lo chayshin on shema yagu zeh b'zeh. He didn't bring in that word Bilvad. He wants to know why. Why? The Talmud did not write what he wrote. Ksat lo shen mishnah b'makom de katani bilvad tav v'lo chayshinan makom makom moshuk sav bala iter kai gam kin shapir adivrei rabbeinu. He's saying, with the Torah's language, you don't need the bala iter. The bala iter, the very next law, is going to talk about how to do the washing. But if I, the Torah, change the language from the Talmud, I can learn that in Halacha 1. The Talmud doesn't give you that liberty. The Talmud says, read on, and I'll tell you how to do that. So there's the Mishnah and Abaye, our Halacha, and then further on in the Talmud, they'll tell you this Bala Itter Zach in Halacha 2. But the Torah changes the language from the Talmud and makes it so he quotes the Bala Itter, but changes it a little bit, and I can learn the Chiddush of the Bala Itter in the next halacha in my halacha now. As he says, Ratzon Loimer, Minektav Rabbeinu, the Torah, Shema Yagu Zeh B'zeh, Mashma De'im Vada Yagao Asur Lenicha. Im Kein Shmamina. That if they were touching, for sure, it's forbidden food. Right? So then, obviously, what do? You have to wash. And the Bala Itter is going to tell you that. But why didn't you just let the Bala Itter tell me in the second halacha? Why are you telling me in the first halacha? So you see, he's letting the cat out of the bag in the first one, and then introducing in the second one. And notice that the Shulchan Aruch is not going to mention the Bala Itter. So in his next halacha, he's changing it lagamre, what the Torah did. So you see, the Shulchan Aruch did change the language of the Torah by saying motrim and not motrin. And he's going to leave out the Bala Itter. So why? Because the Bala Itter was already mentioned in the first halacha. Because he changed the language. And they're saying, why did he do that? We're going to learn about it next. So the Shulchan Aruch says, let's leave him out altogether. Because the Torah already brought in the Bala Itter in the first part. So I don't need to mention him again in the second part. But that's only half the story. Here's the Chiddush. The Mechaber changes the first halacha from motrin to motrim. The Rambam is focused on what? Tell me. Did you cop this? Was his ikr on washing or eating? Afikak mutter litzror basar v'gvina metpachas achas v'hu shelo yago zeh v'zeh v'im nagu madiak basar madiak v'gvina v'ochel. He's focused on eating. If you have good meat and good cheese, you can eat them. Hey, if they touched, you gotta wash them off. If you cook them, it's treif. And then if he said that the whole time, he's saying if they got mixed up, maybe you can eat them, maybe you can't. Suddenly he says you can tie them up. And then the Shulchan Aruch, Kesef Mishnah is saying, why is he bringing the tie it up here? We were eating, and now you're tying it up, then you go back to eating. But we know why he brought it. Because he ran into our Gemara. That the Gemara had a bit of eating and a bit of tying it up. So tying it up is synonymous with washing. So the Rambam said chaparain. Since we ended up in our Gemara, which I should leave it out? Why would I leave it out? It fits perfect here. But then the Kesef Mishnah says you're bringing it in with a fikach. It doesn't totally jive. So the Rambam chaparain, the Torah chaparain, Shulchan Aruch chaparain. Everyone is multitasking. Why? That apparently is the light here. Right? Abaye was there by the Mishnah. Like two things by one spot. So here's the Chiddush. Big Chiddush. The Mechaber, by changing from motrin to motrim, is Lashon, they are mutter. Motrin is a matzav that's mutter. Right? Matzav that's mutter. The meat and the cheese are not puzzle. You can wash them off. That's motrin, the Torah. By the Mechaber saying motrim, what is he telling you? I wrote the nusach of the Torah. The Torah quoted basically the Bala Itter. And here, get this. This is the Chiddush. Ready? I, the Mechaber, learned from the Torah that he was chopping around with the Bala Itter. And I'm changing his girsa. Why? The Rambam was chopping around by eating and the Gemara tying it up with that whole zak, right? I have two Rishonim, says the Mechaber. The Rambam and the Bala Itter derech of the Torah. The Mechaber says, then you know what the halacha is? In milk and meat, you have to chop around. That's the Masorah. That's what it is. I can prove it to you. There are three places in the Chumash where we mention don't eat milk and meat. One of the places is our famous ger location. Right? Give the nevela to the ger in your gate, sell the nevela to the nachri, and do not cook a kid in his mother's milk. Why would you ever have milk and cheese mixed up or the nevela situation? You see, it's already ger, right? And already in the pasuk, where milk and meat is, it's chaparain. Milk and meat has nothing to do with nevela. But the pasuk itself, chaparain. Okay, give the meat to the ger, and don't cook a kid in his mother's milk. Chaparain. You're gonna have a Jew eating a meal, and you have a ger, got free meat. If you get together, don't be weird. Cooking milk and meat is weird. The Torah says don't do it. A Jew and a ger eating might be seen as weird. You see what I'm saying? The whole meichin is to chop two things together that don't go. Is that not what milk and meat is? We're saying from the halacha, it is what it is. If you have to have a clear heart to daven, then have a clear heart in the halacha that tells you how to daven. You see what I'm saying? If I taught the laws of how to not get in a fist fight, then I cannot get in a fist fight in giving over those laws. You follow that? If I'm going to give the laws of Shabbos, I can't be Machal Shabbos. If I'm teaching Basar V'chalav, which is two things mushed together, Chaparain, the halacha always has to have two things come together. You see, the Torah did it, Rambam did it. You still haven't seen how I've done it in Shulchan Aruch. Ready? Motrim, he's bringing to you the Torah and the Bala Itter and the Rambam. Meaning he's saying they're both mutter, i.e. not puzzle, yeah? But that lashon of mutrin would tell you only puzzle, or not puzzle. By saying motrim, he's telling you they're also kosher to eat. Just like the Rambam. So motrim is a reboy. Like the Torah, that if they touch, they're not puzzle. And like the Rambam, if they touch and you take care of it, you can eat them both. That's the chiddush in the Mechaber. Is that nice? The Mechaber, in one word, one letter, different from the Torah, that mem at the end was to bring in the Rambam. Because the Rambam was on location, the Rambam chap the Rhine. The Mechaber is telling you, pshat, if you only would have learned the Torah, you wouldn't have learned the Rambam. If you only would have learned the Rambam, you wouldn't have known the Torah. He quoted the Torah, changed one letter, brought in the Rambam. Based on how we understood him, the Kesef Mishnah, on the Rambam. If it wasn't for the Kesef Mishnah, we wouldn't have known he had an issue with the Rambam. Once he told us that, then we see that he was not only obliged by his own svara to come into the Mechaber Perush, right? But you see he did, and it made sense. Now, we got something else going on. So now that we understand that eating, and I lost my bookmark, eating is part of this equation, right? Because the Rambam, no one asked the Rambam to bring that in here, but he did. He did. Right? Because really, the Rambam shouldn't even be here. He was talking about eating the whole time. And he realized that we were here for him in our Gemara. Now, in a Rambam world, I am the foreigner talking about the Gemara. Rambam saying, yeah, you have to rhyme with me. But in the Shulchan Aruch's world, the Rambam is a foreigner. Why are you doing that? It just is a matter of location. The Rambam thought to bring our Gemara in because he got to the topic. The Mechaber thought to bring the Rambam in because we arrived at the topic. Right? Milk and meat in the Torah thought to bring the ger in and the nevela. Why not? It seems like that is the mochin of milk and meat. That's the whole thing. If you're cooking a cholent, don't say, hey, let's just bring in the milk and make a whole cholent out of this. No. That's how you make a treif. So it's ironic. How do you make kosher the treif sugya? By bringing in more stuff. You see, it is what it is. You see, it is what it is. So then, if you look at 89, 1 and 2, 1 in the Shulchan Aruch, it says the halacha about eating milk and meat at the one after the other. Ochel basar afilu shel chaya va'of lo yachol gvina achrav ad sheyishia sheish shaos v'afilu im sheyesh kashior im yesh basar bein shinayim tzarich lasiru v'halos v'tinok tzarich lamtin. Basically, in 1 and 2 of the Shulchan Aruch, I hope you're listening, if you ate meat, real meat, cooked good meat, you cannot eat cheese after it until 6 hours. If you ate cheese, you can eat meat after it immediately. The Ramah is going to say that the Ashkenazim, you can eat meat after, cheese after meat immediately if you do certain things. Now, the Tosfos is the source of the Ramah. The Rambam is the source of the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. We want to know why the Mako view we know. Right away you can eat that just logically, right? It's the question's always been, why do we have to wait 6 hours after meat? Right? Really, you should say you should, eat it right away. There's really no precedent to wait 6 hours. So where's the Rambam getting it from? he says that the fat comes out of your teeth for 6 hours. Or the actual meat takes 6 hours to clear your teeth. Here's the chiddush. If you eat cheese, then you can go and eat meat immediately. But it says if it's big pieces, okay, you got to take care of it. Why are we machmir on meat? Our halacha today said if the meat and the cheese touch, you wash it off and you can eat it. And that's what's called like a mekel din. Here, we're being very stringent. Why? I would say that I'm hungry, let me eat, let me do what I want, I don't want to wait. Is it a matter of food and eating that why we wait? The answer is no. It's not an issue bechlal about the food. We have from the Talmud, what was the goal and task of the Anshe Knesset Hagadolah? Itmar Nami is from Brachas 33a. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan Anshe Knesset Hagadolah Tiknu Lehem LeYisrael Brachas, i.e. the nusach of your prayers in brachas of food, right? Hamotzi, al-eitz, tefillas, kedushas, and havdalas. The kiddush you make, the havdalah you make, Shemona Esrei you make, the brachas you make, the Anshe Knesset Hagadolah made those nusach. B'techila kavua lahavdalah b'tefila ha'ashiru kavua alakos chazru va'anu kavua b'tefila. The Chazal, the original Anshe Knesset Hagadolah, their kiddush in the siddur was kvias. They established something called kvias. 3 times a day you should daven. Kvias. Yes, it's mitzvah deraisa to daven all day long in your leiv. That's pashut. But there's also something called sanctification of time. Sanctification of your day. Right? You should wake up and daven deraisa with tefillin your yotzi. Right? You daven your leiv dafka with tefillin. Then at mincha it's an eis ratzon to daven. Eliyahu Navi got answered then. Marav ein la keva. You're going to daven Marav because it's a good thing to be in shul, to say Kriya Shema, Yetzias Mitzrayim, go home and have dinner and go to bed, and wake up and be samagua to tefillah in Shachris with Eitz HaChama. Everything revolves around eating dinner. Everything. The entire day. Mariv, so that you go home like the ani that eats bread and go to sleep. Because on Shabbos, that's the Amos Ikari Kriyashma Ba'arvis. That's when that is. When dinner time starts. Why do you go to shul? To make sure you'll eat dinner and have shalom bias with dinner. Very important. Everything goes from dinner. It's serious. Why? Because you'll go right to sleep. Eat bread, you're tired, go to sleep, you'll wake up for Eitz HaChama. Right? Now you'll daven Shachris. Your whole day revolves around the bias, around the home. So Beit Knesset is right next to your dinner. On Leil Shabbos, Friday nights, it's a big deal. Seder night, Leil Seder, it's the whole thing. From Leil Seder and Shabbos night, you learn the whole day on Shabbos, Yontav, Kol Shekin during the week. So the Rabbanan were interested in Kaviyas, being Koveya. Right? So being Koveya Suda is a big deal. Without that, you don't have Birkas HaMazon. Without that, you don't have Birkas HaMazon. Don't just say that we eat, therefore we have Birkas HaMazon. You have to say they made Birkas HaMazon, therefore you eat. They want you sitting down, talking Torah, eating like a mensch, saying Birkas HaMazon, saying Zimun, benching all the kos. With that, you'll know what it is to sit down on Shabbos. It's called chinuch. If you don't know what it is to sit down and have a meal, then you'll never sit down on Friday night. Then you're going to get rid of your kiddush. Then you're going to get rid of your havdalah. then you're going to be over on Shabbos. 3 meals you have to have on Shabbos. Yotzi Oneg Shabbos. The chinuch of Chazal are to get you to sit down with kaviyas and eat. Sit down in your spot in shul and daven. Sit at your table and make kiddush. Now there's a nusuk for kiddush, a nusuk for Havdalah, a nusuk for tefillah, a nusuk for birkas hamazon. So when the Mechaber is saying eat meat, and the Torah says you eat meat first, and you want to say, why can't I have my cheese right after my meat? If I say you have cheese, let's go have a cheese meal, okay? Is it plausible that we could then say, man, I need more. Let's go have some meat. Is that plausible? It is. You got a little cheese. Nobody makes a kaviyas sud on cheese. So if you're hungry, bench, do what you got to do. Go eat meat. But now here's the question. If you're in the yeshiva, and there's a huge fleishik suda, they brought out the bread, and you washed, chicken soup, and the meat, juice, and fat, right? The hummus, all your favorite stuff. Yeah? There's wine, your koveya, the suda on a coast, the whole thing. Do you really think that you're going to go say, man, I could really go for a cheese sandwich? That's what you're going to do? You're like, wow, that was great. Wow, that was a superb dinner. Where's a cheese sandwich I can get? No one's doing that. So the point is, when the halakha says you wait 6 hours, it's assuming that you are a halachic person. You're sitting down like a mensch. You're eating. You're benching. And if it's meat, it is not some kind of, little hot dog from something. Not that changes the halakha. The point is, why are you eating a dodgy hot dog? Right? The whole ikr of, and the word is ikr. The ikr of the halacha is the fat that comes out of the meat, the juices stuck in your teeth, right? Those things, the taste from that, wait 6 hours. So now I think we can see the chiddush, right? Milk and meat is supposed to be about touching and the tasting, right? And the washing. It's all the same components. Whether you're washing it off to make it mutter, whether they mix together and they became treif, right? The same elements. Don't cook a kid in its mother's milk. Give the nevela to the ger, sell the meat to the nachri. That kind of thinking is the modus operandi that drives the halacha. So if you have cheese, that's not a real big suda. Go have your meat after you do what you got to do. But if you sat down to be kaveya suda with meat, you're sanctifying your day. And you did it at noon, right, with the yeshiva. Then you're going to daven. Number one, how do I know you're going to daven? Because right now, for sure, you don't have kavod. You don't have a sugi in your head. You are eating a huge meal. So now it's mutter to daven lagamrei. Number two, you're going to be good for 6 hours. If you eat right, you don't want to go run to some little cheese sandwich. You're good for 6 hours. That takes you to Maariv. Now you're ready to eat again. And here you are. You're at shul. You're ready to eat. You're here to daven. Now you can go home and you have a proper meal. Right? So now, at home, based on what you have, you're probably going to have the meat on Yontif or Shabbos. So if you have a cheese zach for dinner, you have it. If it comes out, there's meat, you're allowed. If you sit down to have meat, again, now, you're home with the shalom bayis, you're eating meat, you davened, okay? You had a whole day of serving God. And now it's like 7 o'clock at night, and you daven, you have a big fleishik suda. Again, are you telling me you're going to go in the refrigerator and look for a cheese sandwich? Not possible. It is 100% not possible. In our Shvachador today, people are having McDonald's and all these things. That's not meat. That is not meat. Right? I know for Independence Day in this country, I bought kebabs. And I looked on the thing, it was like 80% flour and stuff, like 20% meat. It's not meat. The Torah and the halakha is establishing a suda. It assumes you're eating real food. Right? In our world, we don't eat real food. That tells you there's a problem, Houston. Right? So, again, not that the halakha changes. It just means that today, the Ramah makes more sense today with fake food. But in a world of real food and real kavana and real birkas hamazon, because you eat real food and your kaveya suda and your kaveya tefillah, all the things you're supposed to do, yeah, the halakha is you wait 6 hours. No question. And nobody, I think, would contest such a halakha. Now, when you're eating McDonald's and all these things and gross food in 2015, obviously the halakha still is, but we can see why people may grumble and want to go with the Ramah, according to Tosfos, that you do your business and right away you can have, right? Because the logic doesn't add up as much as the Mechaber does add up. And again, the Mechaber is bringing you based on the Rambam. You see they're very intertwined in this, the matter of eating. And the whole point I want to say is there's a chiddush in the Mechaber again, based on the kaviyas of the Suda with our meat and our cheese. And just maybe it's a thought about it because the Rambam told us we can eat in his halacha, and that's why in our halacha 91a in the Yordea, the Mechaber is chapen that you can eat as well as not be puzzle, right? And that's that. So we learned a couple chidushim in the Mechaber that eating in our Gemara, where we just spoke about the meat and the cheese touching, we had a riboy v'chiddush that eating is not out of the question, and that led us to this halakha. Now, also, there's a famous thing that a cold piece of meat and a cold piece of cheese, right, according to the Torah, is not forbidden to eat. It's when you eat the hot cheeseburger. This is the source of that. Now, rabbinically, we know that when the Rambam said the meat and the cheese you can eat after you wash them off, that was not together. We know that. Right? No one's going to suggest putting them together. That would be mashma from the words of the Rambam. But the point is that you would eat them separately, which again brings us back full circle why the Mechaber wrote motrim instead of motrin, showing that the meat and the cheese can always be consumed, as long as they didn't become puzzle in the process or beyond treif. The next day in the Mishnah was about having them on the same table. So there is a way that they can be on the table. Now again, halachically today we have our entire Suda, this or that. But again, I'll close on this point. The reasons for the kulas here in the chumras is because the source of the din, don't cook a kid his mother's milk. And right there it says, give the nevela to the ger, sell the nevela to the nachri. Sometimes you may find with ger Jewish eating habits together, since the non-Jew may not be shomer basar v'chalav. So if you get stuck in a situation, now you have the eitzes of what to do. When you're selling the meat to the ger, you're going to have that relationship over food. The entire mitzvah of the chiyuso is based on the nevela. So again, when you find that his nevela fell into your cheese sandwich, you know what to do. When it's kosher, when it's treif, if you're eating together, again, there's a lot of dinim here. The bottom line is the chidushim are there based on a one-letter change from the Mechaber, from the Torah. Motrim, which brings us achila. Achila brings us svara. Svara brings us the din of 6 hours and why it makes sense. It had nothing to do with food. Not really in the din. Has to do with the inyan more than the logic. The inyan is sit down and eat and have a real meal and daven and be a Jew 24 hours a day, serve God the right way. In today's generation with tablets and applications, it's not real, and we're forced to do halacha in a non-real environment, and that's why there are problems in the world. It's not healthy. So the real thing is eat right, daven right, think right, learn right, and the Torah comes alive, and God willing, that will be what it's like when the Mashiach comes, the Sudas Livyasan. We're supposed to eat the Sudas Livyasan, meaning we want to go back to an era where people act like menshes, sit together with words of Torah, and eat and bless to Hashem their God, And Mizrat Hashem, the Shefa will come through Torah's emes. Amen.